By now, you probably know, or at least suspect, that we live in a multidimensional universe. But did you know that there's 13 dimensions and how they're structured? I was shown the entire universe during my spiritual awakening, and in this video, I'm going to share with you the 13 layers, what each one is used for, and how they interact. Hi everyone, my name is Sophia Persephone and I'm a channel for the Council of Light. In my videos, I share what they've been teaching me over the last few years. I was lucky enough to be taken on a tour of the universe's 13 dimensions by the Council some time ago, and I still visit some of them now, and so do you for that matter, as I will explain. By the way, this is brand new information for our earthly dimension, so I'm going to ask you to suspend your disbelief. By the end of this video, you'll see that what I'm about to reveal makes a lot of sense. And remember that outside of spirituality, string theory requires 11 dimensions for the mathematics to work. So physicists working on the cutting edge of science are already starting to uncover some of the truth. Okay, so let's start with what is the universe, spiritually speaking? It's an enormous consciousness which is self-aware and identifies as Athena, as I explain in another video which I'll link you to. This consciousness contains souls, you and me, who exist primarily for the purpose of learning. We're learning machines. However, we also play the game of life, and that's basically a gamification of the lessons that we go through. It makes the experience more challenging and enjoyable for us. Our universe also contains spirits, and these are versions of human beings, or avatars as they're known in the higher dimensions, which continue on after physical death. They go on to live wonderful, rich, fulfilling, immortal lives in the upper dimensions. And spirits and souls interact in all of the 13 dimensions of our universe, so it's a community. In a moment, I'm going to lay out all of the dimensions for you using my trusty iPad Procreate, but first I need to tell you, originally there were only meant to be 12 dimensions. Yes, that's right, we got a bonus level. So if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll explain what the 13th level is. Okay, so let's get into it. Conceptually, you can think of the upper 12 dimensions as being shaped like a pyramid. This isn't their physical structure, but it's a representation of the energy that each one uses, because the dimensions become more dense and physical as you descend. Let's start at the top. This is Valhalla, and it's the home of Athena. It's where senior souls and some spirits meet, and it's where high-level strategies and important conversations take place about the running of our universe. Valhalla is almost completely non-physical, so all of the interactions that take place there exist almost as pure thought. It has a little bit of structure. I experience it as a meeting place, a bit like an enormous teepee or a great hall, but glowing and white. And perhaps you've been there and not realized it. Now, because Valhalla is virtually non-physical, things happen very quickly there, which is necessary when you're trying to run a 13-dimensional universe with quadrillions of data points. The next level down is heaven. Yes, heaven really exists, and it's no accident that it sounds like the word haven. It's a nurturing and magical place where spirits and souls live and play and enjoy themselves. And there's also some learning that takes place in heaven. For example, the Akashic records are stored there and can be accessed by anyone up to their individual level of clearance. Heaven is where souls recuperate in between incarnations and where spirits are integrated into the wider community after physical death, because they may have some trauma which needs to be resolved, for example. So it's a healing place too. Heaven is theoretically infinite, so as new spirits ascend, they can create their own environments, they can build houses, etc. And manifestation occurs super quickly in heaven because, again, it's not a hugely physical environment. Okay, so let's talk about the 10 layers below Valhalla and heaven. They're organized into 2 blocks of 5 and they're intimately connected to one another. And I'm going to talk about the lower 5 levels first, and you'll see why in a moment. So these 5 layers are earthly dimensions. They all look roughly like our universe, as we term this one dimension that we're in today. And these are the dimensions where souls incarnate into human avatars to learn. So they're live environments. Time runs roughly forwards and sequentially, although not always. I'll talk about time in another video because it's too big a topic to include here. But you can think of all the events in these dimensions as flowing like a stream. When we incarnate, we get dropped into the river, and we need to adapt to and work with the time of history we find ourselves in. Now again, these earthly dimensions become more physical as you descend. The more physical the dimension, the harder it is for us to learn and the harder it is to play the game, because it requires enormous strength of mind to manifest in an environment which is very dense. We're moving heavy blocks around. Now we're here in Earth 3, right in the middle, medium density. In terms of actual structure, you might have heard the theory that our universe, by which I mean this dimension that we're in right now, Earth 3, is shaped like a donut. And that's almost correct. In fact, all of the 5 live Earth dimensions are shaped like flattened eggs. They have a pointy end, and that's because we're moving forward in time and we're creating new data as we go. So this pointy bit is the data expanding outwards. Okay, so what's happening in the other 4 earthly dimensions while we're incarnated here? Well, their stories are continuing too, but at different speeds to our own. The major activity in the universe is happening on Earth in our dimension right now. This is where the majority of the resources are, because the universe has finite resources. We are literally the biggest show in the multiverse because we're heading for this story waypoint of global enlightenment. It's a really big deal. And we've already achieved this milestone in Earth 1 and Earth 2, which are the 2 layers above us. As we progress through the layers, we take the skills we learned in the previous dimension and we hone them even further. So it's a bit like a weightlifter building their muscles and being able to lift progressively heavier weights. We're doing the same, only with the power of the mind. So in the layers where we've already achieved enlightenment, time still runs, but it's on go slow. Enough happens to keep the story moving forward, and part of our soul is also incarnated in these layers, but in a much lighter way. It's the same for Earths 4 and 5, which are below us. They are behind us in history and time is on go slow, but part of our soul is also incarnated down there. Once we've reached the enlightenment waypoint for Earth 3, we'll move on to Earth 4. And of course, once we've completed the Earth missions in all of the 5 earthly dimensions, there's plenty of other planets for us to move on to. So in effect, we're playing an infinite game. Right. Now let's look at the 5 dimensions above the live earthly dimensions. These are shadow environments of the 5 lower Earths. So live Earth 1 has a shadow Earth 1, live Earth 2 has a shadow Earth 2, and so on. But these shadow environments don't have a story in the same way, and time doesn't always run forwards. In fact, what these environments are used for are as dry runs for the live Earths. And if you're familiar with software development, they work on the same principle as a sandbox. They're environments where souls can go and test their skills, and also where teams can try out strategies, because the game of life is hugely strategic. Each team is trying to achieve its mission, and they want to measure the impact that one decision might have over another. So these shadow dimensions are made up of little pockets of experience, individual tests, rather than being one free-flowing, time-driven environment as the lower Earths are. And because they're far less densely physical than the live Earths, tests can be run quickly. We use them as models. Now, sometimes things happen in the shadow Earths that filter through to the live Earths, and this is deliberate, by the way. The Council are leaving clues all over the place to help us uncover the true nature of our universe, because that's an essential step towards enlightenment. Take the Mandela effect, for example. This is a term which describes a discrepancy between real and imagined events. It comes from an event during which a significant number of people around the world believed they had seen Nelson Mandela's funeral on TV during the 1980s. But in actuality, Mandela went on to become president of South Africa and died in 2013. So this is the perfect example of a team testing a strategy in our shadow Earth, Mandela's death, which was then allowed to filter into our live consciousness. By the way, you know I said you've definitely visited some of these other dimensions, and I mean you in the human avatar you're in now. It's because our corresponding shadow Earth is where we visit in our dreams. That's why dream reality looks a lot like our live reality, but strange and wonderful things can happen. You can fly, for example. It's because you're manifesting in real time in a far less dense environment. Okay, if you've made it this far, thank you. I really appreciate it. And it would be great if you could like, share and subscribe so my channel can grow and I can get this important information out to more people. Thank you. So the bonus level, the 13th dimension, this is the big reveal. It's hell. Now don't panic. It's nothing like the hell you've been taught about in Bible class. In fact, it's now defunct. Hell has been mothballed and is no longer used. When people have experiences of travelling to hellish places in dreams and out-of-body experiences, where they've actually visited is one of the lower shadow earths. They're not nice places right now. So what is hell and why does it exist? In a much earlier chapter of our universe's history, pre-time as we understand it, the story majored on Valhalla and Heaven. And this is where many of our myths and legends come from about the gods in all of our earthly traditions in this dimension. So it's true that in this time of history, Lucifer was cast out of heaven for rebelling against the cause, and he needed somewhere to go. So he built the dimension which is now known as hell. But in fact, it was just a standard environment where he and his team could live and interact, and in fact, pretty much a replica of heaven, just much smaller. But the council wanted to discourage people from joining Lucifer, so they created the idea of hell. Interestingly, the idea of the fiery flames is a bit of a cosmic joke. It comes from the fact that hell was firewalled. No one could get into hell without Lucifer's permission. So the council used the fact that the 13th dimension was obscured from view to create this image of a terrible place that no one in their right mind would want to go to because they would pretty soon have their feet roasting in the flames. Have you visited any of these other dimensions? Do they feel familiar to you? I would love to hear about your travels, so please leave me a comment. And if you'd like to learn more about how our universe really works, I'd recommend this video next.